Today, Christine's talking with Christopher of Fingers Crossed and Mike Mueller, organizer of SEMO, to talk about the SEMO July Jamboree.
Eventually, I just got to the point where I'm doing all this volunteering. I'm watching these students have so much fun with their robots, and I'm like, I want that. I want to have fun with my robot too.
That I think we had almost 10 different states represented, if my numbers are right. So we had such a good group of people to meet and just have a lot of fun that day.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Outside of the Box. And this is a pretty exciting one for me because I don't normally get to recap or cover events other than NHRL or BattleBots because I haven't branched out enough. And I decided to take a trip all the way out to Peoria, Illinois for the SEMO July Jamboree, which was a phenomenal event. And we'll talk a little bit more about the overall event a little bit later in this episode. But first, I have a segment here with one of the builders that certainly left an impression on me, and I'm pretty sure an impression on many of the people that were watching the event happen, which is Christopher and your robot Fingers Crossed. So welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
For sure. So like the robot itself, there's a lot of times I'll look at a robot and I'm like, wow, this is just a really like wacky looking robot and stuff, which like it's cool, but I think like the personality that came out in that event was really the showstopper for me, which kind of shows that like this is why I've always said that there's parallels between combat robotics and professional wrestling. And I think that combat robotics needs to have more of that energy, and you really brought the energy for sure. Before I get into that piece of it though, tell me a little bit about how you actually got into combat robotics, because I love hearing everybody's kind of backstory of how they got into it.
Yeah, absolutely. So my background is in engineering. I got an engineering degree from Iowa State. And eventually so I graduated in fall of 2019, and I had in the background, like, okay, I'm already doing some FIRST Robotics volunteer work. So I'm already kind of within the robotics like environment, and I've got this engineering background and this knowledge. And I didn't really do anything with it for kind of a while besides just working. And eventually COVID hits. I'm watching some of these NHRL videos, I'm laughing at them. I'm thinking, wow, this is really cool. And I just kind of let that fester in the back of my mind for a very long time. And eventually I just got to the point where I'm doing all this volunteering. I'm watching these students have so much fun with their robots. And I'm like, I want that. I want to have fun with my robot too. And so then eventually I just said, all right, this is it. We're gonna make a robot. We're gonna get one. Like, we're gonna figure it out. We're gonna get involved. We're gonna get to a competition. We're gonna watch it get destroyed, and we'll feel whatever we feel when we get there.
That is true. You never really can predict exactly how you're going to feel as you see your robot getting destroyed. Now, tell me about Fingers Crossed and like the idea for that, because again, just like getting into the sport, everybody has their own story of like where they came up with the design for their robot and why they chose to go that direction.
Absolutely. And so actually Fingers Crossed is by and large a kit robot. It's built off of the Jolt V2 kit from Absolute Chaos Robotics. And I decided to start there because, going into it, it's intimidating, right? It's so intimidating. You think, oh man, I'm going to have to learn like all this mechanical. I'm going to have to learn all this electrical. I'm going to have to learn how to like, work within the rules. I don't really know which regs I'm going to be like failing against, which ones I'm going to be passing successfully. How am I going to like figure out exactly the weight of my robot? Weight is a very guess and check challenge sometimes. And it's very intimidating. And even with my engineering, background and knowledge, I was just like, you know what? I would just much rather like start with something that can compete. And then we're going to work our way from there. We're going to iterate after that. We're going to find what we like. We're going to find what we don't like. And eventually at some point, we'll probably tear the whole thing down and just rebuild something in the image that I kind of have. So fingers crossed starts really as a Jolt V2 kit, by and large. And there's been some modifications that I've done to some of the 3D prints, to like the weapon design entirely. And, you know, I'm working through a couple of other modifications as well. But that's just where the start point is with fingers crossed. It's that, hey, I just want to be there first before I figure out the winning formula.
Yeah, and actually, I'm kind of curious about that because I think like some people have the perception in combat robotics that if you're already an engineer, that gives you an automatic leg up on the competition of maybe somebody who doesn't have an engineering background. And I've not necessarily found that to be 100% true. You know, like results may vary, no matter what your background is, but you have like quite an interesting background. You know, if you want to talk a little bit about that and like how
Sure.
that may have helped you or not helped you with making
Sure. Yeah. So, I mean, my quick general in the background is that I've, you know, besides getting the engineering degree at Iowa State, I was also on Iowa State's solar car team for 3 years. So I built a fully functional 4-seater solar car, helped design a fully functional 2-seater solar car, raced across America with it. I mean, it was a lot of engineering that went into that. I had a couple of internships, and now I work at Boeing full time as as a production support engineer, and now I just transferred into a new role as a structural engineer, and I've been with Boeing for 5 years, working on fighter jets. So there's a lot of engineering background in me, and I still thought combat robotics was intimidating. And by and large, combat robotics is just basically building an RC car. Very simple electronics that you would almost find on the shelf at Walmart, right? And that was still intimidating to me. And it's a mindset thing. And once you figure out that like, hey, it's really not that much, you can actually build this. It's very simple. You can go on to do that. You can achieve that. There's really not a lot of intense engineering that goes into building a combat robot. There is a lot of good driving that goes into winning with a combat robot. I don't have the good driving skills. But it's fun all the way, and the whole time you're learning, the whole time you're doing more as well.
Yeah, those are a lot of good points. I would say, like, in my experience, obviously the biggest differences from an RC car would be RC cars aren't necessarily built for either durability or destruction.
This is true. I do use RC cars as my test pieces for my weapon to run against.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's a good method of using those. But yeah, I think the driving though, I mean, obviously that's something that comes with experience, right?
Yeah, driving comes with experience, but experience doesn't necessarily mean, you know, age as well. That was one thing I saw in my very first competition. There was a girl that was maybe 10 years old at most. She was driving this little 1 pound plastic ant weight bot. And it was like a little flipper, and the head shape of it was designed as like a hippo. And the whole competition, everyone could just recognize instantly she is easily the best driver here. She was driving with so much control. She was driving so well. I mean, she was winning round after round of just with a flipper control bot, and she was like 10 years old. Like she was doing a phenomenal job. And you know, the experience there doesn't have to be purely age. It's just what the time you get with your robot, basically.
Oh, I couldn't agree more. My 9-year-old daughter has a better record than me versus any robot that I've built. So, yeah, it's a funny sport, and I think one of the things that I really loved about, you know, your whole kind of demeanor and your slogan and everything at SEMO is that you're here to have fun.
Absolutely.
It literally says it everywhere on your screen. Tell me about that, because it's, there's people that have different like mentalities in the sport. There's people that are very much there to win, and there's people that are there to have fun, and there's people that are kind of there in between. Is it easy for you to just kind of relax and have fun, or is there some part of you that like wants to win and has that competitive spirit?
I think everyone would like a win on their record. That's for sure. But in terms of like where our the team name came from, and also where Fingers Crossed came from, is the night, like I think this was maybe a week before my first competition, right? I'm like panicking, thinking, oh man, there's like 1 or 2 more days to sign up. And I'm like trying to figure out the sign up website. And I'm like, all of a sudden it asks me for like, you got to register your robot. And it's like, what's your team name? What's your robot's name? And I go, what? I need to have a team name. I need to have a robot name. Like, I didn't know this. Like, oh my gosh, like, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? And then I just thought, like, well, I need to just put something down. Like, what's the reason I'm here? Like, what is the reason I'm here? And I'm like, I'm not doing this to win the whole competition. I'm not doing this to win a golden dumpster at NHRL. I'm really just genuinely here to have fun. And so that's where I was like, okay, that's a team name. Write it down. Here to have fun. Like, that's it. Okay. And then I was like, what's going to be my robot's name? Like, I don't know. Like, and I came up with like all these like different names that were like, horizontal spinner, something that was like very vicious and cool. And eventually I was just like, what do I hope for my robot to do? And I'm just like, fingers crossed, I just hope it survives. Like, I just hope something happens. Like, that's the only spirit I have going into this, because I'm thinking like, I haven't fully flushed this robot out myself. I haven't, done any math on it, tested or anything. It's mainly a kit by that first match. And you're just like, I guess, fingers crossed. And then it all just kind of fit into place after that. We got the cool logo as well with the fingers that are severed for the horizontal spinner. And so it just all kind of fit. And it's the vibe that I have. It's the vibe that I take to every competition.
I think it's great. And that has to be one of the best logos ever, quite honestly.
Thank you.
Yeah, I like the attitude and everything, I think, was infectious. I mean, the crowd was just getting into it and chanting along, fingers crossed, like for the whole event. So
absolutely. I learned very early on that like the majority of people at Combat Robotics, they're not going around like kind of like at first events where first teams will be yelling their team number, right? They'll be cheering on their team nonstop. And I thought, oh man, Combat Robotics isn't doing that as much. But you know what might help me win a judge's decision? Is if everybody else is cheering my name. If I'm the fan favorite, I may get that win on the record. And it, thankfully, fingers crossed, is a really easy chant. You can yell it pretty easily. You got a team sign that's really easy, and it's just a really good opportunity to get your team name out there, to get the spirit out there, to get the crowd involved, to get all the builders paying attention and involved as well.
Yeah, for sure. You've definitely got the marketing piece down. I can tell you that much.
Thank you.
Now, just to talk about the event overall, because I mean, I do go to quite a few events, and I thought that it was really well run. Everything seemed very organized. Like, it was really cool to have the professional wrestling right next door, because they have, like I said, there's some crossover there. So I think there were some people kind of going back and forth between the two.
Yeah.
How did you feel just overall about the event?
I love the event. SEMO Robotics is the group that put it on, and they're doing a phenomenal job. They only started out maybe about 2 years ago. They're from Southeast Missouri. That's where the SEMO name comes from, Southeast Missouri. And it's basically just a couple of people from the community down there that just got together and said, man, we really want to host a BattleBots competition. Like, we want to build robots, we want to fight robots. How do we make this happen? Nobody else is doing it in our area. They took the amazing initiative. They built their own battle box, and they reached out to QuadCon, or maybe QuadCon reached out to them, not totally sure on the specifics of that, but they got in contact with QuadCon, which is a Midwest run, like toys and games and comic books, thing that happens in all these different locations around the Midwest. And they said, hey, can we be there? Can we be part of your event, basically? And QuadCon agreed. They went to their first competition. They did wonderful. They impressed QuadCon, and they just keep getting invited back. And we were there right next to some professional, wrestling that was going on as well, which was really cool. But I think our crowd was still a little bit bigger.
Yeah, we had a really great crowd over there. I mean, it's when you see robots going at it in the cage and just the chaos that ensues from that, it's pretty enticing to kind of wander over and check out what's going on. What does the future hold for Fingers Crossed? What is your plan from here on out?
Well, in a couple of weeks, we're going to be planning to go to the competition in Hastings, Minnesota, on September 6th. So we're going to hopefully show up there. We're going to hopefully show up with a few more modifications to the robot, some changes that may help us not explode as much. But long term, I mean, Fingers Crossed is just hoping to continue. It's just such a fun robot in general, because you either just have a fun time and you're actually winning, or something terribly unfortunate breaks apart with the weapon, and then there's no mass left in the robot, which means against all of these meta vertical spinners, you just get to go flying and flipping in the air. The robot will just continuously go flying and flipping through the air. And since it's a symmetric robot, it can land on top or bottom, and it just keeps going. And it just keeps flipping through the air, and you just get to laugh the entire time. So it's so much fun that I'm absolutely going to keep doing it. Fingers Crossed is absolutely still going to be there. And I hope to do more and more competitions.
Well, I certainly hope so, because it's a lot of fun. So I would love to see it at as many competitions as possible.
Yeah.
Well, for fans that are watching this, definitely check out Fingers Crossed and support this robot because it's amazing. And continue watching this
Thank you.
episode as we're talking more about the SEMO July Jamboree event. All right, and we are back talking more about the SEMO event at QuadCon, which was a lot of fun. And now I am here with, I guess, the man himself, Mike Mueller, to talk about the event and about SEMO. So welcome back, Mike.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. So obviously had you on before to talk about SEMO in general, but I have to say, especially given y'all haven't been doing this for that long, and I think in the time that you've been doing it, it's come a long way. So I want to talk about that a little bit first before we get into the event.
Yeah, so it's if you remember the time when it started in a little bitty library room, and I rented out a library room and said, let's see where this goes. And, there's a bit of encouragement here that I would give to anybody that ever thought about what can I do? You don't have to be an EO necessarily. Those little parts make up a bigger picture. But let's say you are. I mean, it's really just jumping out and jumping into it with both feet. And there's a lot to do, but there's also so much help out there. So we personally, as far as growth goes, we continue to move our meetings to once a month. Those meetings have now evolved into so much more than just getting together. We've decided to make sure that we do a STEM challenge at the forefront of every meeting. And so that's kind of how we open the meetings. And then we roll into how to blend whatever that challenge is into robotics, but then into other things. So engineering as a whole, things that you just would not see a lot of people do. I'll tell you one of a really cool story for Mother's Day. One of the things is that we finally got enough laptops that everybody can use, and we did we designed our very first CAD design, which was a cup, right? So, and it was so amazing to see the feedback, to tell them to go home and see if they can print the cup or send me the file. And this was just spectacular to see. I'll throw it out there. There was a 10-year-old that designed a cup that was a functional cup off his very first design. And it was, he was so excited the way that it was presented to him. But I know right now, if I ask him what would he be doing right now, that excitement is still with him to this day. And he's still like, I can't wait to do the next. I can't wait till next month. And so that's what we're starting to see. And it's just continued growth. And it's growth of the education, the growth of the community, the growth of friends. When we go to like these events, it was so amazing to see so many people that has continued to follow the SEMO group around. We know that we're not a point system, and there's a part of our non-point system that keeps our events exciting like that, because it's just having a good time. And some people are using our events just to test because it's not a point system, so that they're doing new. But it has been such a blessing to know where we were and where we are today. And the community has been so overwhelming, supportive of what we have going on. And I could not do it without people like Brian by my side. And Brian's my local guy, but then now I've gone to where I can't just say Brian. I've got people like Jeremy and Jason and Todd. The list goes on. And I know some might say, hey, why didn't you mention me? But no, you know how it is. It's just these people go on, but our people are not just local. That's part of SEMO. If you noticed anything about QuadCon, and I'll just get right part into that, it was at the end we took a photo. That photo consisted of what I called my staff. There was probably 4 or 5 different states represented in that staff. That was so amazing. And all we do is talk on a social media and say, this is what we're going to do. This is how it goes. And because of doing the shows the way we have, it's been so well coordinated, that I guess you could say we kind of got a routine down.
Yeah, it certainly seemed that way. Everything seemed very well organized, and that was one of the first things that I noticed when I kind of walked over to the area. Before we get more into the event of this event, I want to talk a little bit about partnering with QuadCon in the first place, because as you are aware, I know something about partnering with a con, and it certainly is I think an advantageous partnership for all parties. And so how did that go about the first time when you initially partnered with QuadCon?
So one of the things that I quickly realized is that we are not able to grow locally unless we branched out. And here's what I mean by that. The ability to provide to the local group that I wanted to provide couldn't come and be sustained by, we often don't like talking about that word of the financial side of things, but that alone could not be sustained if I just did it myself or Brian just did it, or so we had to do something else. And so we decided to branch out. We found QuadCon, kind of spoke with them a little bit, and then after our very first show, it was such a good fit. So, and you know, coming off of doing a con yourself, you could see where it's the atmosphere seems to be perfect for all aspects of combat robotics, Comic-Cons, all the people that go with it, and then just a community that's not worried about being bigger than what their community is, but the community has its own growth within itself. I know it's kind of weird to explain, but it really helps. So when we first did our first Comic-Con was St. Louis in 2024, and I I'll never forget it. I was asked before I left, after all the cleanup, after all the putting together, after a handshake and saying, you know, let me know how this went, give me your feedback. And he says, here's a list of dates where you're already on them, you know? And so that led into there. And we've already been invited back for 2026, in which we plan on adding maybe some more shows. But QuadCon is a name that goes in several states. I have now kind of made a personal growth with them, because you know, when a con invites a robot league in, they might not know all about it, and so there's a hesitation on their part, because there's a lot that goes into that. You know, I don't know how you guys came about to where, if you had to say we really like to be there, and if they were hesitant, or if they were like, yes, come right in, because it could go either way, right? So I made sure that there was a lot of groundwork that had to be laid for an understanding. And now that we've done what we have done with QuadCon, that rapport has been built, and it's strong. I mean, they do a fantastic job on promoting us, and we do them. And I think that's what it's all about. You know, you're well aware of this. I'm not afraid to make sure that I'm trying to help those who's helping me, because that's how we keep going forward.
Yeah, absolutely. So this year's event, you know, because obviously I didn't go to the ones in the past, so I have nothing to compare it to as an experience, but it was a lot of fun. I thought there was a lot of really good energy, and you had a pretty large space. You know, like in my opinion, it was a pretty large space right next to the wrestling, which I think made for some interesting like entertainment.
Oh, fantastic. So I kind of did that on purpose, to where we all of that was pre-planned. That's all I could say. All of that was pre-planned, so that we want to make it comfortable for everybody, with the number of robots that we had at any given time. But you know, when you do these meetings, you think of a lot of the safety aspects of it. So that footprint that we had came with us being closest to the door, so that we could, you know, make sure that the safety aspects of what we're doing is met. And then it also had, so we were put in the back. Here's how I can compare this. If a grocery store wants to sell one item the most, they're going to put it at the furthest from the door. And that's so people have to pass all these other things before they get there. And so I was told that there's so many people coming to watch the robot fights that you're going to be in the back, so that they can pass by everybody else. And so that way, you know, so a lot of that's done by design, but it's really cool. And yeah, we had a fantastic, the rest, I think I made this comment, I'll just throw it out there. I think we were the very first live stream robot live stream where the pits had live action wrestling going on in the background, which I thought was fantastic. It made it for a different element, that's for sure.
Yeah, it definitely did. And it was really a day of some great fights. So I have to like, this is not the first time that I've seen Pipeline Punch fight in person, I'm pretty sure. But My goodness. Ian really put on a show with that robot at the event. And also did well with his ant weight too. Talk about just the quality of fights for the day, because I thought there were so many just really good entertaining fights.
Yeah, I think that we open up that door for uh, a caliber of all classes that come in, that is kind of a blend of everything. It's not all the hardest competing robots, but that mix really helps out. We also blended in a lot of the which I can talk a little bit more about, but our special promotion that went on, that was just so unique and such a fantastic idea, and it worked out great. With our sponsors, both Palm Beach and Repeat Robotics. I don't know if you know the full details of how the promotion went, but it worked out really well. Where both of those individuals, well deserved that they got to where they are. I think some of our fights had an element to it that was really unexpected. I know we had quite a few of upsets, but at the same time, there was also some surprises that you really didn't see. I had one bot that I had looked at that I thought was really going to go far, and then it was self-destruct, right? That was one of the most amazing things to watch from an EO perspective. And the look on the face of who they fought was like, I don't know if I can beat this robot, but they didn't ever have to touch him and they won. So it could change at any time. I think that was one of so neat to see all the different aspects. We had such a good blend of robots. I mean, it wasn't all verts. We had such a good variety of flippers and control bots, and my attempt at a drill bot is still going on, but we still got that. But it was such a good variety to see so many different people. And they came from, by the way, I have it record that I think we had almost 10 different states represented. If my numbers are right. So we had such a good group of people to meet and just have a lot of fun that day.
Yeah, for sure. I would definitely agree. And one other thing that it's so funny because people might think it's a weird thing to want to talk about, but I mean, safety is super important. And one thing that really struck me at your event is just such a strong emphasis on safety. Like there were no corners cut at all. And so I want to talk about that and why that's so important.
So I have been told that we do things a little different, but as soon as there's a mention as to why, you can almost see this little light bulb go off in everyone's head. Is like, oh, that makes sense, right? So, which was really good. So something that I kind of enforce, I'm as an EO, you're running around, you're going crazy, right? So if something does occur, I like to call them thermal events, as we get, which you hope that only is ever in the arena, but we prepare as if every event would happen, right? So one of the events is we particularly put we have a designated charging station. That way, if something were to occur, I'm going to one of 3 points, which is either arena or the charging station. And in a mass of because I try to and I don't know if you noticed in my meeting, I talk about not panicking if something happens, which I think sometimes just gets overlooked. People, what happens if something does happen? Keep it calm, what we do, and just assess the situation, correct the situation, right? And then the other thing is that I know that a lot that I require that I just haven't seen nowhere else, but I've seen the result of this doesn't happen, is I'm a big advocate for keeping, when your robot is on the table and you're at an event and you're so excited, because we all are, and you're doing 100 things, right? You want to watch the fight in front of you. You want to learn from the person next to you. You want to go to go at a QuadCon, you might go shop and come back, or go, to whoever, come back. And when all those things happen, your bot's not attended. If any reason would happen that your bot was left on and the wheels are on the table, we now have a bad experience, right? We make for a bad day. So I am a big advocate to just simply take your robot, set it on something, and make sure that if at any time it's powered up, it's off the ground, it's off the table. And I have seen the experiences where one robot is in the arena and they forgot that they're on the same channel as another robot. And now what happens to that robot on the table? We often don't see these, but we don't make safety rules because we don't see them. We make safety rules because we don't want to see them. So yeah, and we do a lot of other things too. As you can see, our arena is probably a very unique design from what you've ever seen. I've had people question that, but as you can see, it's there's a lot of thought put into that. You know, the engineering side of it, the safety side of it, and we continue to just want to stay at the forefront of that.
Yeah, 100%. That was one thing that I had to call out because there were things that I certainly hadn't seen before, but like you said, when you understand the reason behind it, it makes complete sense.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I thought that it was a really fun event. Were there any other like big takeaways that you had from it?
I think that every event I go into saying I can't wait to not just do the event, but I'm not as nervous as I was in my first event. And I think with each of these, I become more comfortable and create the amazing friendships that's out there. You know, I got to give a huge, I guess, shout out is what that one would say, but to the Parker family who supports us every time we do an event, and the entire family, anywhere from announcing to judging. Miss Parker judges, Mr. Parker takes great photos. We do our photo after safety. Not just them, but everybody else that is behind the scenes. My daughter and her fiance, who does so much work before leading up to the show. And they do, you know why all that work is done before the show? So that the show can be enjoyed when it actually happens. And they do a fantastic job with that. Brenton, who has been a little nervous at first to want to do the announcing, but man, for this show, I cannot say how much he shined with how good he was announcing. I've had people comment on how good he did the announcing, and he is such a wealth of knowledge with the robots and everybody. You know, he's I think that's what's great. Also, it helps when you have so many different announcers. You know, we had a Spanish announcer, which worked out somewhat good, other until the count out. Then it became a little bit of a hurdle that we learned from. But we also had every announcer has their own element. I'm really I'm too loud on the microphone, as I've been told. But that excitement, David, who is the king of puns when he does his announcing, and we make that not just announcing. We each want to be, that is our contribution to being fun for the event. You know, all of the safety people that I had extra safety people there, even all the way down to ring tear down and set up and clean out. The list goes on of so many different people. And what's great about this community, and you know this, and you've probably seen this, is there was one person that wasn't actually on my staff, but at the end of the day, I said, can you do this? And yet I wanted to make sure he was in that staff photo. Huge shout out for Nick, who joined us recently. And it was something as simple as cutting up the names for the sponsor names. You know what I mean? And I think one of my big takeaways is we hope that you continue to look for growth from us, because we look forward to growing. If we do the sponsorship sticker thing again, I'll just can I tell real quick how that went?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So in order to we had additional prizes. Number one, if you podium and had this sticker. Number two, you were automatically in the drawing. That way, if you didn't podium, you were automatically into a drawing. It was a very unique sticker made by Palm Beach Bots and a very unique sticker made by Repeat Robotics that we collaboratively designed. And this collab insisted of, all you had to do was purchase items from them, and they sent you that sticker. And if that sticker was on your robot at the time of check-in, then you automatically became eligible for that prize. So, I mean, we're buying Repeat Robotics. We're buying Palm Beach Bots because Those are kind of your go-to names, and amongst some of the others. But these kind of things only make the show better, and it's one way to help give back to those that give to us.
Yeah,
and I can't say thank you enough to both of them gentlemen who did that. I want to say thank you for coming out, by the way. And thank you for manning our table the whole time. I don't know if you were really expecting to do that, but it was so great to, that way you could help. And I think we did some trivia questions on your stuff too, didn't we?
Yeah, we did some trivia questions.
All right, cool beans. So I think overall, I am getting more comfortable with having fun at the event, because we are to that point of organization and safety, and we have such a fantastic group of people that assist us and follow us. And I just want to say that I hope that everybody's looking forward to us growing in the future, because that's what we intend to do. So
yeah, absolutely. Well, it was a very fun event, and definitely something that people should check out when it happens again in the future. Because it was a pretty decent drive for me, but I had a lot of fun, and definitely worth the drive. So well, thank you so much, Mike. Excited to see where SEMO grows from here, as we all kind of work to grow the sport together. And looking forward to it.
I think our next one is going to be Winter Wars. That's our hometown event. That is the one where we do a coat drive, and all proceeds from that event go to our local coat drive. And we do so many cool things. So look forward to, being able to put a coat on your robot, perhaps, or dress your robot up as the audience decides who wins the most themed bot. So that's always fun. So, and I do believe SEMO is looking to add, I think, 6 total shows in 2026.
Well, that is awesome to hear. Well, if anybody's watching, well, whoever people are watching this episode, obviously, but anybody that is watching this episode, please make sure that you like, subscribe, share, follow what SEMO's doing on social media and all that good stuff. And we'll see everybody next time on the show.
See you then.